karate fish sticks, Jinbei has returned in this week's episode of One Piece. He's the only one that can stop Big Mom's extreme Crocombush rage. And not only that, but he has plans to leave her crew, which is going to come with dire consequences. And we learn that in this week's episode, Big Mom has the ability to take away your very life force. That's right, it is her secret devil fruit power. This is also going to be your very first clue as to why there are so many inanimate objects in the Whole Cake Island which manage to actually have life. Most of them being food items. Food items which get eaten violently by Big Mom in this week's episode, which might be one of the most fun scenes that I've seen from the series in a long time, especially for the fact that it was played for comedy. Despite the fact that Big Mom looks like a giant kaiju beast rampaging through a city, she's only eating the living food items. And what's funny about this is that it's in many ways like a parody of the kaiju genre. Hell, it even kind of feels like a parody of Attack on Titan. Whenever she's eating all of these living candies and cookies and cakes, you get to see all of their blood squirting all over the place, which takes the forms of like frosting and chocolate just exploding onto the scene. It is hilarious, to say the freaking least. Big Mom herself was also just great in this episode. So incredibly funny, yet very disturbing all at the same time. Especially when you get to see how far she'll go when she's in a rampage and she can't get the food that she likes. She actually manages to kill one of her very own sons in this episode. Moscato Charlotte, who is that one minister of gelato. He has this whole like ice cream theme to him. You get to see it in the shape of his hair, and the fact that his sword is actually an ice cream cone. I think that's pretty funny. And he desperately tries to stop his mother in her rampage, but that's when she gives him the ultimatum of life or treat, where I'm guessing you have to present her with some sort of treat-like item, otherwise she's going to steal all of your life force. And even though some of the other brothers and sisters show up to try and stop Big Mom, she manages to kill Moscato anyway. This scene is pretty terrifying, especially in the way that she's presented, but we also get a lot of other clues as to how her actual powers work, like the fact that if you show fear in front of her, and you're actually scared of her, she'll actually be able to take your soul away. So if you happen to just be a badass manly dude who's not freaked out by a giant pink-haired woman who likes to eat a lot of candy, then you might actually stand a chance against Big Mom. So you have to have a lot of cojones if you want to go up against this whole lot of woman. So this all leads to this amazing reintroduction to the character of Jinbei, who comes flying in on this river of juice with this giant Crocombush, which of course is like this giant tower of cream puffs, and he does this thing where he jumps up in the air with them, jumps right in front of Big Mom, and shoves him right down her big old gullet. It is great, especially the way the citizens all react when they see her return to her normal state of mind. It seems like they're way too used to this, to seeing all this death and destruction, and then they just immediately go back to being happy. It's, again, showing you that not everything is completely perfect on the Whole Cake Island, and Tato Land still has a lot of problems. But this leads to the big scene where Jinbei comes in, chest puffed out, really super confident, ready to tell Big Mom, I'm done with this shit. I'm ready to join the Straw Hat Pirates, but it's not going to be that easy. Big Mom is not just going to let Jinbei just make this decision and walk out the door. No, there's going to be a big confrontation in next week's episode, which I do not want to spoil. That aside, the only other scene in this episode, which was surprisingly fun, was actually this great scene with Luffy where they discover this massive sea creature, which is a fruit football fish. Basically, it is a giant living watermelon, and Luffy is enamored with it immediately because it looks like a goddamn giant watermelon, so he tries to bring it onto the ship. It's too large, and right as he's pulling it down, it actually swallows him whole. He beats it up from the inside, cracks it open, and they creepily slice this thing into actual, like, shapes of triangular watermelon, despite the fact that they actually are fish. And him and Chopper and Carrot and even Brooke get in on all of the delicious dealings, but Nami has nothing to want to do with it. Really, this whole scene right here is basically just a diversion and just a little bit of filler before we get to the next big scene with Jinbei and Big Mom. But it still looks really good. If there's one thing I can say about this arc, it's freaking gorgeous. And the artwork in this week's episode in particular was solid across the board, but we'll talk about that later. Really, that's this episode right here, all ending with the big confrontation with Jinbei and Big Mom, which, like I said, is going to get your attention next week, so make sure to stay tuned for that one. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece? My favorite thing about this episode has got to be the artwork and the animation. This was a solid episode from across the board. Watching Big Mom slowly trudge around this giant candy-filled city literally does feel like watching a Godzilla movie. They do a great job of making her seem so large and imposing and scary. The whole scene with Moscato was also pretty damn disturbing. It's something that was teased in the intro, but it looked really good here in the anime series as well. And it's really great to see some more of the children of Big Mom as well, such as the brothers and sisters that came around. This one dude with this amazing suit, which has like these bones which are etched on it. He's got this face paint. There is this really beautiful redheaded girl. And then there's this dude who is just made out of basically cream. He's a giant, gooey cream man. It is just insane. I love it. It's sort of drawing a little bit of inspiration from the Dressrosa arc, where Doflamingo's goons were all just weird as fuck. Clearly, the author of the series just like pushing the envelope and making all of these guys look as strange as humanly possible. But that also makes them incredibly memorable, and you just want to see more of them every single time they pop up on the scene. That, and of course, Jinbei returning, which... come on, man. Jinbei's fucking awesome. He's one of my favorite characters from the series, and I've been desperately waiting for his return and to become an official member of the Straw Hat crew. They remind you of all of his past with Luffy in this episode as well, and that makes sense. He's one of those characters that only pops up so often. We haven't seen him for a long time, and for new viewers, this is sort of your refresher on the character, with him returning, going through all of his responsibilities, leaving Big Mom's crew, and then eventually he'll become the next Straw Hat Pirate, which is awesome. At the end of this arc, my dream is to have Jinbei become the next Straw Hat Pirate along with Carrot. I just think it would be the perfect combination. We need another female character. We got Jinbei, who has such a strong connection to Luffy and helping him out through so much with his training and saving him in the big war. This is the time for him to finally return, and it's just epic. He's such a cool, awesome character. So, what more can I say? This was actually a really great episode of One Piece, in my opinion, despite the fact that really not that much happened, but every scene here just worked, in my opinion, and it all looked really good while it was doing it. So vivid, so colorful, fantastic artwork across the board. Even the weird scene with Luffy and them fighting against the giant watermelon fish. So, I'm going to give this episode a 5 out of 5. Yeah, I liked it that much, and you should definitely check it out if you're a fan of the series. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about this week's episode of One Piece, and you can tell me in the comment section below. Were you excited to see the return of Jinbei? What did you think about Big Mom's rampage and killing her very own son? And what do you hope to see from the rest of the Whole Cake Island arc? Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things One Piece anime and manga related. Make sure to leave me a comment telling me what you thought about the episode, a favorite scene, maybe you liked the episode, maybe you didn't. Maybe you want to talk with me about something. I'm always down for a good conversation. And of course, if you liked this video, please take a second to hit that like button. It helps out our videos a lot. But if you didn't like it, you could also give the video a thumbs down. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.